How do people face this world without God? I mean, I just don't. I think I would be anxious. I would have anxiety. Maybe the world has anxiety. What do you think?
A lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
I guess they do, don't they? All right. 2 Samuel. Last week in chapter 9, we looked at how David destroyed all of his enemies. He used the plunder from the wicked and the tribute. So plunder from the people he killed and tribute from the people he kept alive. And what's he doing with all that money? That's right. He's saving it up for Solomon to build the temple. And he's like, I'm getting all these resources for you. And also, just see if you remember, what is another reason David fought his enemies? See if you remember. If not, I'll tell you. All right, what did God tell David he would not do?
Build the temple.
Build the temple. Who's going to build the temple? Solomon. So that's one of the reasons David is about raising funds.
He's a war.
Aha. Right. He's the war guy. Now you're headed in the right direction. So what's Solomon going to do? He's going to build the temple. He's going to be at peace with who? Who's he going to be at peace with? Everybody around him. Are they at peace with everybody around him right now? No. So if you don't change the situation, think of it this way. If Solomon becomes the wealthiest king, much more stuff than David had, but he's not a warrior king to defend it, and nothing changes in the culture around them, what's going to happen? They're going to come after that money, right? And so what's David doing? He's not only storing up the treasure, but he's dealing with the enemies. He's getting rid of them. God said, hey, I want your house under Solomon to be a time of peace and to build the temple. And David's like, okay, I can prepare for that. And he's doing all he can to prepare for that so that Solomon, his son, can fulfill the prophecies that God gave him. Does that make sense? Okay.
Stuff they should have been doing anyway.
It's stuff they should have been doing anyway, but sometimes God gives us motivation to do it. And so that's kind of what's happening here. So let me read for you. We're still going to see a glimpse of that in chapter 10. That's what we're reading today, where he's dealing with some of the enemies that surround him. But I want you to take notice how David deals with them. That's what we're going to be looking at tonight. Really interesting study. And I think by the end, you will all understand what's happening in chapter 10. And just quick, because this will be fun. What happens in chapter 11? You can look at your Bible. What primary story happens in chapter 11? Bathsheba, right? So what does David going after the Ammonites and Arameans have to do with Uriah and Bathsheba? Why are those stories together? Is it just chronological historical events and we just read this story and then we forget about it, go on to the next story and then forget about it and go on to the next story? Or should we read these together as if there's some reason they're all put together? All right, so we're going to have fun with that. Look at the first 4 verses of chapter 10. In the course of time, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun succeeded him as king. And David thought, I will show kindness to Hanun, son of Nahash. That name should sound familiar. He was an enemy king, but when David fled from Saul, Nahash was kind to David, gave him a place to stay, so David kind of got along with him. Okay? And so it says, son of Nahash, just as his father showed kindness to me. So David sent a delegation to express his sympathy to Hanun concerning his father. And when David's men came to the land of the Ammonites, the Ammonite commander said to Hanun, their lord, do you think David is honoring your father by sending the envoys to you to express sympathy? Hasn't David sent them to you only to explore the city and spy it out to overthrow it? So Hanun seized David's envoys, shaved off half of each man's beard, cut off their garments at the buttocks, and sent them away. Did you know that was in the Bible? Yeah, because they didn't make a movie out of this. We can't watch it. All right, so here's what's happening. David is preparing for a time of peace. And he has defeated a lot of the enemies that were dangerous around him. Did he consider Nahash as a danger around him? No. Why? Because they'd always been nice to him. We always got along. And so what does David do when Nahash dies? He wants to continue the relationship in kindness. And so he says, you know what? Here's a good chance to keep things at peace. Because he's not only destroying the enemies, he's not just a warrior wiping, he's not, Attila the Hun or, you know what I'm saying? He's just not taking over every land to prove he can. He's taking over what God gave him and then wants to be at peace with people. And so, it shows the wisdom of David to defeat and squelch a future problem. But if you're not a problem, then let's encourage the relationship. Let's make it nice.
Like Saul's grandson.
Look at 9:1. David asked, "Is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" He's like, because of Jonathan, if there's anybody in his father's house, I'm willing to show kindness so that they never come back and try to take over things. Let's get through this generation to say, this is the best thing that ever happened to Israel. Let's keep it going. And so in 9:1, we see him showing kindness to what would have been considered an enemy. It's a threat of the throne. But he's like, but if we can do it with kindness, let's do it with kindness. If we can't do it with kindness, we might have to get aggressive. And that's what chapter 9 was all about. Now in chapter 10, in verse 2, David thought, I will show kindness to Hanun, son of Nahash, because of the kindness he showed me. That shows the mark of a wise, not arrogant, but very confident king. And here's the first lesson that we see out of this. If Hanun was wise and had wise counselors, even if his counselors didn't trust David, they would have said, all right, this guy defeats everybody he goes against.
God's got his back.
Yeah, and even if they didn't believe in God, as their God seems to beat our gods. That's the pagan attitude. Even if they didn't trust David and thought, I wonder if they're actually here to spy us out.
They wouldn't just humiliate his envoys.
Exactly. They would say, all right, then let's keep them busy. Let's wine and dine them. Let's try to keep some kindness there, but don't let them around this corner. Don't let them in that building. Don't let them out of your sight. Well, like that would be the wise thing even if you didn't trust. But there's no diplomacy at all here. And I'm going to say, I believe it's because it's Israel. And there's the devils against Israel. It's what we saw in Revelation 12. It's what we're going to see in Revelation 13. And it's what we're seeing in 2026.
Yeah, they're illogical.
Illogical pursuit against the Jews when you don't have to. And it's always been that way. And even back here, they wanted to humiliate them. And so let me just say this principle. Who you listen to matters. Because who you listen to can make sense to you. That those around you You want to do what they think is right? And here, if he'd had wise counselors, he would have said, no. Don't tell me to be nice to these people. I want to humiliate them. I don't think that would have happened. And it shows our tendency to ask advice from people no better than us.
I can think of three, like, wherein Esther and King Xerxes was influenced by his advisors to do what they did to the
But
Jews.
so was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
And then, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yep.
Yep.
So many examples of that.
Yeah. It's who you hang with will determine who you are. And here, they made a big blunder because he's listening to the wrong people. And you're going to see, I think, one theme throughout this whole chapter is that no man is an island and completely stands alone. You make your decisions based on others. You have help and support from others. You help and support others. And you do things because of others, and others are influenced by your decisions. And we're going to see that in just a moment here too. Who you listen to matters. So David's kindness is met with mockery. You can almost hear those guys, can't you, sitting at the table, like, yeah, they just came and are respecting my father. It's like, what? Are you stupid? No, I'm king. You sure that's what they're doing? Because I think they're coming here to check you out, to destroy you. What should we do? Should we, like, chase them away, send them home? No, let's humiliate them. Like what? What can we do? Cut their beard off. Wait, let's cut it off halfway. You know that.
You should have thought too, like, if they're going to destroy us, you would have done it already.
Exactly. You know, like it doesn't have to make sense. And then we're going to cut half their beard off because that's their, you know, like to them, that's important. Part of the reason was in Israel, only the slaves and servants were clean shaven. It was the manliness, the authority came in their beard. And so to shave that half off was really a humiliation. It's more than just you don't look good anymore. It was a real slap at their position. And same with the clothes that they wore. It's not only that, well, you know, those Eastern cultures completely cover. And to cut it off up at the buttocks so that they're running around half nude was as bad as you could do to somebody that's a Jew. And but these are not your low-level soldiers that were sent in an envoy to take this. These would have been nobility, royalty, an envoy that's sent. So they would have had clothes to show that they're prominent. And so to take them and do this to them, so from the guards that were with them to the royalty that went, it was a slap at authority. Like, your nobility means nothing to us. Your military means nothing to us. It was a huge, you know, mark against them.
I thought you were talking about buttocks, cutting off right at the buttocks, like they're wearing a little skirt.
Well, either way, I don't know if the moon was out or not. You know, whether it was a full moon or half moon, I don't know, but it was
It was the most humiliating.
right. Let's just say it was humiliating enough that David said, stop in Jericho and don't come home until that grows out, because I don't want you that embarrassed in front of our people. Like, because we're about to read that, okay? Which tells me David took what the Ammonites did seriously, that this, not just, hey, we'll cover for you, but like, yeah, that did literally demean you. And to stop it from having its effect, you stay there, away from your family, away from your wife, away from your kids, until they can see you with your beard back and longer clothes back on. You see what I'm saying? Like, it was a big deal.
To grow the beard out that long again would take a long time.
Well, it depends on how long they had to grow it out to feel like they could come home. You know, like, give me 3 weeks and I'm going to be, I go away for 10 days to come back and I can't stand it.
It's like not only did they thumb their nose at David, it was like the whole Israelite people because they had their beards.
But for them to talk like that and come up with a plan like that and send them home, like if they really feared the knowledge that they would have had, then kill them. They're a king.
But just humiliating them and then sending them back to give word to their king what happened to them is like the worst way to
Yeah,
decide war.
it's like children instead of adults. Which, quite frankly, this is going to sound, I don't want to do that, we're recorded. Yeah, I'll let's just keep going.
Keep that to yourself.
But they're like children not realizing that they're not in the playground, they're playing with adults. They do this little childish thing, and David is the adult that says, those kids, what do they think they're doing? We're going to handle this. They don't realize the depth of the game they're in. Okay? And so verse 5, when David was told about this, he sent messengers to meet the men. Like, run out there and get them. Stop them before they get here. For they were greatly humiliated. The king said, stay at Jericho till your beards have grown and then come back. Like, we got you covered. And I think it wasn't just a message, stay there. It's stay there and here's the supplies you need. We got your back. Be here as long as you need till you feel confident and proud to come home. Do you know what that must have felt like on the heels of humiliation? To know the people you're going back to treat you with that kind of respect? Look, we may get out there and there are times in the world that I don't feel respected. And then I come home and it's like the people that matter, I have their love and respect. It just, wow. And so that's what they're facing. They're like, what's that going to do for them and their family's view of David as king?
Their loyalty and appreciation.
Yeah, their loyalty goes through the roof. And you see what God is doing. He is building around David loyal subjects. And he's doing it through David's wise commands and decisions. You with me? All right, let's keep going. Verse 6. Because you know that moment, I'll read it in a minute. You know that moment, if you ever done something and you just like either out of anger or you're not thinking, you make a decision, you do it, and then all of a sudden you realize, man, that was a stupid decision. In that moment, you have a choice. When you feel like that was really stupid, either I continue to look stupid and defend it to keep my pride, which is what most people do, or you go, wait, what was I thinking? Man, I was drunk that day, David. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? You either repent and confess and call it what it is, or you dig in your heels and say, yeah, but I got reasons, and nobody, you know. And every time you do something stupid, you have a choice. And that's what's going to happen in verse 6. It says, when the Ammonites realized they had become obnoxious to David. Here's the choice. They realized, surprise, surprise. That was an obnoxious move to David. Didn't expect that coming, right? But when they realized it happened, they had a choice. Either they sent an envoy with great rewards saying, we'd like to pay these guys, we're sorry, this is a big mistake. Or they double down. And what do? They're going to double down. Watch this. They hired 20,000 Aramean foot soldiers from Beth Rahab and Zobah. Those are two different Aramean towns, as well as the king of Makkah with 1,000 men and also 12,000 men from Tob. So what did they do when they found out that David was mad?
The band them together.
They band together and say, well, let's just get ready to defeat this guy. All right. Here's what I want you thinking through. And I was going to save this till the end, but I'm going to tell it to you now so you see it as we continue to work through it. There were still people's potential enemies around David. He's preparing to be at peace for Solomon. He sees these people and says, let's do this in kindness. God knows kindness isn't going to work with them. This happens in such a way, though, that David never had to be the evil, mean guy to step up and say, yeah, but you're a threat, I'm going to take you out. He tried to show kindness. They're the ones that tipped their hand and brought on the war. And God knew that if David could have shown kindness now, it would have been temporary. And once Solomon was in place, then all these people would come after Solomon. David didn't know that. Who knew that? Only God knew that. So, you ever heard the phrase, no good deed ever goes unpunished? Man, that happens all the time. You try to do something good, and you get punished for it. No good deed ever goes unpunished. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've said that, because it's just like, I try to help, and then it makes it worse, because they don't receive it well or whatever. Well, what happens, and what you're going to see as we go through this, is, but because David did the right thing, God allowed them to do what they shouldn't do, so that David continues to do the right thing to defeat them, so that David never did wrong, but cleared out enemies he didn't know he had. Are you tracking? It's part of the reason we don't worry. I don't have to know my enemies. God knows them. There could be people talking about this church or about me behind my back, and guess what? Guess how interested I am? I'm not. Because God knows. God can deal with that. Does this make sense? And so what David started out as nice, you go, well, he tried to do something nice and ends up in war. This is horrible. No, this is providence. This is God taking bad and turning it to good, but he did it because David was good to begin with. And so, next time, should David learn his lesson and just go attack? No. Next time, start with kindness again. If there's a problem, God will reveal it. It shows the level of trust that you can have in God, because he knows more than you do. And man, that is so, we see that in this passage. So, having said that, now you kind of see where I'm going with this as we continue to work our way through it. David tries to be kind. They respond ridiculous. David feels like they're obnoxious, so they are the first ones to prepare for war. Well, now David has no choice. Is there any question what David should do now?
Wipe them out.
Wipe them out. So, verse 7. On hearing this, David sent Joab out with the entire army of fighting men. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle formation at the entrance of their city gate, while the Arameans of Zobah and Rahab and the men of Tob and Makkah were by themselves in the open country. All right, so you understand what's happening. They hire a bunch of help, but they don't come in one big group. We're gonna hit them head on. You circle around and come from behind. You get the picture? All right. verse 9. Joab saw that there were battle lines in front of him and behind him. So he selected some of the best troops in Israel and deployed them against the Arameans. Who's in front of him at the gate? Ammonites. And that's where Joab's at. But he takes some of the best and says, you guys go the other direction, we're going to have to split up. And you go fight the Arameans. And look at verse 10. He put the rest of the men under the command of Abishai, his brother, and deployed them against the Ammonites. So he took that group and said, we're going after the Arameans. Abishai, you stay here with this group and you're going to defeat the Ammonites. All right. Joab said, if the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you. What does that tell us? Stop and think about that. Just real life. What's that tell us? They got each other's back. They're like, I'm going out and I'm going to focus on this, trusting that you got that. But I'm willing to walk away from this to go help you if you're hurting. Or if I'm getting too weak, I trust you're going to show up and help me. It's the idea of battles are best fought with the help and encouragement of others. Y'all agree with that? You know what else it tells me? They went into war not knowing what was going to happen. It's not like the Lord is with us and we know we're going to win this. It was, we're going to go here, you're going to go there, and we got to have a plan A and we got to have a plan B and a plan B and a half or C, because we don't know what's going to happen. And it's to have backup plans, be willing to adjust, be willing to admit that you need help. Don't always put yourself first and your personal goals. Like you're fighting this one and you're starting to win and you feel like you're doing a good job and you want to keep it up. But if they're hurting and losing over here, what do you have to do? Stop what you're doing and go help. That's hard for us. But they sat down together and said, we good? This is what we're going to have to do? And they both agreed. It's the principle of working side by side and working together. But I think the third and most important principle is what's about to come up. Verse 12, be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. So this is not so much an inquiry of the Lord, should we go, should we not? They're already drawing up lines. But what they're saying is, let's go out and do this. And if God's going to defend his people and we're in a position, God wants to bless us, we're going to win. If we're not, we can't do it without God anyway. And so whether I'm going and you're going, we're going different directions, we don't know what's going to happen, but here's what we do know. Whatever happens, it's what the Lord wants, and that's good. Did they know they were going to win? No. How do we know? Because they're looking at the backup plan if they're not winning.
Talking about rescuing each other.
They're talking about rescuing each other, backing each other up, and yet at the same time saying, but we have to do this to go, if we're going to win, we have to fight.
Yeah, because if one got overtaken, then all of the other
Yeah,
armies
right.
go over there.
And so they're hoping that you don't need my help and I don't need your help. That's the best case scenario. But do they know what's going to happen? No. Are they at peace? Yes. Why? Because it's not the outcome that matters, it's who's in charge of the outcome that matters. As long as it's what God wants, then it's going to happen. What faith and confidence and I think that's the most important principle that we see in this section, is to make your plans, but realize God's plans are more important, more sure, more acceptable than your plans, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the apparent outcome.
And like sentence says it all. The Lord will do what is good in His sight.
That's exactly right. If the Lord's going to do what's good in His sight, then that's what's going to happen. But let's go see. It's almost like, and this is really great attitude, and we try to have this. We talk about it in our family a lot, and that is, you don't know what's going to happen. Go do your part and see what God's going to do. Just can't wait to see what God's going to do here. Like impossible situations where you go, I have no idea. Can't wait to see what God's going to do. On a missions trip from Romania to Serbia and to the Czech Republic, we're following the Danube River. You were with me on that one, weren't you? And we had 5 of us in the car, or 4 of us in the car. And it's this windy road that follows the Danube River. And I think there's 27 tunnels that you have to go through because the road kind of follows straight through. Anyway, it's beautiful. I got some pictures. But it's right on this cliff. And I came out of a tunnel, and there's another tunnel right around the corner. But as I came out, there were rocks, big sharp rocks that had fallen down and like a slide out. Not anything that would ruin the car, but it sure popped a tire. Okay, so here I am in Serbia, where they don't speak English and they don't speak Romanian. And we
only had English speakers and Romanian speakers with us.
right. We had 2 Americans, 2 Romanians. They all spoke English. We spoke some Romanian. None of us spoke Serbian. It was 45 minutes from the time we crossed the border, when we crossed the Danube River, to get there, and another hour and a half until the next town following the river. There were a couple of small villages, but like dirt roads and no plumbing, you know. So we had driven 45 minutes, moving pretty quickly. It's now late afternoon, and we're in the middle of a pass coming right in between these 2 tunnels where the road is small. If somebody comes through there, they're going to hit the car. It's getting dark, and it's like we didn't have a spare tire, it's like this is bad. Like if we start walking, how long does it take you to walk a 45-minute drive? No. If you can drive in 45 minutes, that's like how long? Maybe if you ran, no, like 45 minutes from here is what? North side of Nicholasville, almost all the way to Lexington, right? How long would it take you to walk to Lexington? That's about how far we were. Well, that was from the border. The town is another 15 minutes drive past the border. So we had an hour drive to get to any town that could fix us. So it's just like, okay, Lord, this is bad. We're here for the right reasons. You need to protect us as we sit here all night. We had some of the people out on the other sides of the tunnel flagging them down to like, be careful going through there so they don't hit our cars.
We were able to push it off the road onto the shoulder.
just barely, but even that, it's a dangerous spot.
Yeah, it was.
And so we just prayed, and a couple of people stopped, and we said, hey, you're coming from the other way. How far is it to a town where we could get the tire fixed? And they'd say, like, we've been on here for an hour and there was nothing. I mean, those were the, and we knew the other way we came, and from the border was nothing. And so other people say, are you from around here? Like, and we try to grunt, through information. And that's how we found out it was the other direction past the border, 15, 20 minutes to the town. And we just prayed. All of a sudden this guy shows up and didn't speak much English or a little bit of Romanian because of some family members. And he said, I've got to run the opposite direction. He says, come with me, get the tire in. I got to go feed my dogs and let them out. Then he'll take us to this town. So we go, he drives us 20 minutes that way and then back again and all the way past the border and to this town. We get there after things are closed.
And
So, yeah, but
With no cell service, so we couldn't contact each other.
but we felt it was more dangerous in the town than there on the road.
Yeah.
And so we get there and there's a sign. I mean, I would not have been able to read the signs on of the tire place is closed. So we're thinking we have to stay here until tomorrow. They're going to wonder what happened to us. We have no way to communicate because we're outside of cell range. And it's like, And the guy that was with us is like, wait, but this says an emergency, call this number. So he calls it, and this guy sticks his head out of the window of the upper part of the building, and they're blah, 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 blah. And he said, yeah, I'll come down. And he had the tire that we needed, sold it to us. But they don't change tires there. They only sell tires. And, you know, and so he started asking people, where's the Vulcanizade to change the tire? And, you know, and we went and found out on clothes, and they told us, try this place. And we found a place that changed the tire, and we put it in, and he drove us back, and by dinner time we were on the road, which is a miracle.
It was like maybe 20 minutes past sunset, so it was already dark, and we were like, well, we'll just sit in the car.
And hope they make it tonight, and you know, and no idea. My point is this, truthfully, when I look at that situation, there's nothing good that was going on when it first happened. We're like, we are stuck. But we're like, can't wait to see how God's going to get us out of this. We just prayed, so now let's just see what God does. And then when God did that, we promised God, if you do something to get us out of this, because, you know, we will tell your story and give you credit. So I'm still fulfilling that promise right now. But this is my point, is things can go really wrong. And you don't have to worry about it if you know God's will be done. It really does give us great confidence.
I was never worried through the whole situation.
None of us were.
We were just taking pictures on the roadside.
It's like, God's going to do this. God certainly doesn't want us stranded here for the next week. You know, like, he'll figure it out. And it was a great story, and, you know, just neat to see how God does things.
We had a great week of camp after that, too.
It was. All right, so where'd I leave off? 13? Then Joab and the troops with him advanced to fight the Arameans, and they fled before him. When the Ammonites, so that's the hired people, right? The Ammonites were the enemy. They hired the Arameans. The Arameans come, and Joab takes the best and goes after them, and they're like, ooh, this is not what we signed up for. We out of here. They turn around and hightail it out of there. When the Arameans flee, verse 14, when the Ammonites realized that the Arameans were fleeing, they fled before Abishai and went inside the city. They're like, run into the city, protect ourselves. So Joab then returned from fighting the Ammonites and came to Jerusalem. Did he stay there and keep hammering them and wait and, you know, tear down the walls and we're going to drag this out until we can kill them? No. He's like, all right, we chased them away. They know not to mess with the big dog. We go home. Okay? Verse 15. After the Arameans saw that they had been routed by Israel, they regrouped. They never learned their lesson. You know why? Because they're not being led by God. They're being led by an idiot. Yeah, an idiot called the devil. Verse 16, Hadadezer had Arameans brought from beyond the Euphrates River. Like, go get more Arameans. So you just need to get a bigger group. They went to Helam with Shobach, the commander of Hadadezer's army, leading them. When David was told this, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, and went to Helam. He's like, all right, they're wanting to do this. I'm not going to leave this for my son Solomon. Okay? The Arameans formed the battle lines to meet David and fought against him. But they fled before Israel, and David killed 700 of their charioteers, look at this, and 40,000 of their foot soldiers. This is numerically one of possibly the biggest battle recorded for us that David won as far as the number of people that died. And where did it start?
His kindness.
His kindness. But God knew that even these Arameans on the other side of the Euphrates that David wasn't even paying attention to, God knew they're going to be a problem. I need to deal with them now. Do you see God's providence in this? How God's doing that? He also struck down Shobak, the commander of the army, and he died there. When all the kings who were vassals of Hadadezer saw that they had been routed by Israel, they made peace with the Israelites and became subject to them. So the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites anymore. It squashed it so that they wouldn't be were they a problem anymore for David? What did it just tell us? They're not going to be a problem anymore. God handled the problem. David is trying to protect the kingdom and either put down or be kind to the people that surround him so that Solomon can live in peace. David attempted kindness first. Right choice. If he could go back and do it again, he should do it the exact same way. You start with kindness. But God knew more than David did about the future problem of these peoples. And so God brought it up in a way to deal with it so that Solomon could be at peace. Now there is one other thing I'm going to leave you with this thought as an introduction to chapter 11. Next week, we're going to be looking at David and Bathsheba. And 11:1 says, in the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. How many of you have heard, and this is true, this is accurate, that part of the problem with David being at home to see Bathsheba is he's now out doing what he's supposed to be doing. All right? Kings are supposed to go out to war. Where's David? He's staying at home. And in fact, stay at home and in bed. He gets up out of bed and sees her in the middle of the day. What's that tell you he's doing? Sleeping in. You know, and so, but it's everybody jumps on, and I agree with this, that, well, David should have been out there fighting with the people. And I think the story of chapter 10 is preparing us for that. Here's why. If you look at verse 7 of chapter 10, on hearing this, David sent Joab out with the entire army of fighting men. Does that sound familiar? The same thing he does in 11:1, he did in 10:7. And then he...
About the Ammonites.
Yeah, about the Ammonites. I'm not, there's a little bit more. Don't, if you read ahead, you'll question it, you should, but just hang in just for a second. Verse 10, when help is needed, you don't see David, Joab gets Abishai. And the two of them go out and fight. Where's David? Now, when it finally gets to a bigger picture, David does go in verse 17, or whenever that is. When David was told this, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, went to Helam, and they came out to meet David and fought against him. So David does go eventually when it got bad enough. But it's already showing David is backing out of being the warrior, you know. And so even when it's showing us what David does right, and he's showing kindness, and he's doing some right things, it shows that even then you can start to get comfortable and quit paying attention and start to get, can we use the word lazy? It is easy to focus, and rightly so, on the fact that David did not go and was lazy, but I think, how do I want to say this? We can be in a time of victory. Let me end with this. We can be in a time of victory, but preparing for a time of defeat if we aren't watching ourselves. We assume we're all good because God's still blessing. Look, God would stop blessing if I was doing wrong, right? Well, maybe He's still blessing because of the things we did right. And it's not that I'm flagrantly wrong, but am I as hungry for the Bible as I used to be? Am I talking to people about God like I used to be? Am I as passionate, as excited, as obedient as I was? We should be increasing in that. And so even while he was facing victory and doing some right, he was starting to show the signs of weakness that eventually gets him. And so my caution to us is, don't take God's blessing as a sign that you're doing everything right. Take it as a sign that God rewards when you do right, but I want more of that, and continue to pursue righteousness.
One of the things that we found from Grandpa after his passing was, so he used to have a notebook that had a bunch of stuff in it. It was his prayer journal, it was some notes and some recipes, it was a bunch of different stuff.
All things dad journal.
But one of the pages is one that he visited every single day. It was his daily routine ritual of not being a complacent Christian.
Yep.
And he has like a full page of here's what to pray about for specific things to not slowly get weaker and weaker in his
Spiritually.
spiritually.
He wanted to continue. He was 89, and it was a thought through process how to not get lazy in his spiritual life, but how to continue to grow and make sure that his spiritual life remained fresh and new and progressed until the time that he died.
He did it every day.
And he did that every day. So, all right. Any other comments, questions? Y'all good?
Very good.
All right. Y'all are, let's be dismissed. Drive you crazy if I don't pray?